Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamansa Pariprakacharya Ashto Tarasata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamayi Ki Jai Jamunamayi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for gathering. We can check our cell phones and see that they're silent. And I think it's ordained that this evening I'm to talk about Vanaprasthashram. Am I right? Yeah. Not Varnashrama in general, but Vanaprasthashram. As we know, there are, in the Vedic social system, there are 4 social divisions and 4 occupational divisions. The divisions by occupation are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And the divisions, social divisions, are Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Social divisions means, according to our stepwise progression through life, one starts as a brahmachari, a student, and one may remain brahmachari or may marry. If one marries, then married life, and then the next stage is retired life, or Vanaprastha. And then there may also be the 4th stage, sannyas, renounced life. So there's a lot of information about brahmachari life, too much information about householder life, fair amount about sannyas, but we don't hear much about Vanaprastha life. And so I've written a book to be published, we hope later this year, on Vanaprastha life, called The Vanaprastha Adventure. The Varnashrama system, these divisions, are not identical with Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not dependent on social standing or occupational engagement. But these divisions are helpful for stable progress. There must be some social system, or else chaos. And the Vedic social system is organized in this way to promote advancement in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. The idea is that human life is meant for going back home, back to Godhead. It's not meant for anything else. Narto yas jeha karma bhi. It's meant for getting free from material existence and going back to Godhead. So how do we arrange our life in such a way that this becomes possible? The life should be molded in such a way that at the end one's mind is fixed on Krishna, ante Narayana Smriti. And therefore, detachment from the material world is also, as Prabhupada would say, a concomitant factor, or they go together. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, or it's said about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharta Meka Purusha Purana. Can you hear all right, by the way? I'm not talking too loud. Little higher? Okay.
No, we put volume.
Little more volume. That sounds like good? Okay. Thank you. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach devotional service, which is supported by Vairagya and Vidya, detachment and transcendental knowledge. So actually all of the ashrams are meant for detachment. Brahmachari life teaches detachment. Grihastha life is also meant for detachment. It's the alternative to all out, anything goes, unregulated sense gratification. In Grihastha life, there's regulated sense gratification. Even the brahmacharis have some regulated sense gratification. But there's some greater scope in family life for sense gratification and family affairs. But because these are, well, what shall we say, rooted in the bodily existence, we can lose sight of the ultimate goal, or we can become preoccupied with temporary things, and therefore the detachment or retirement from family life is also prescribed. Anyway, family life, after some time, becomes not so exciting, not so rewarding, not so wonderful. And therefore there's so many married people who, when they get to the middle of their life, they're wondering why it's not working. They go looking for another partner. They go, something has to change. Maybe they have to try being a girl instead of a boy. Something has to happen because it's just not working. But from Vedic Shastra and from practical observation, we see this is just biology at work. As one ages, sense enjoyment becomes less rewarding. And so the materialists try to make it more rewarding, or they find some way to try to get as much out of it as they can. But the devotees just say, all right, or those followers of the Varnashrama system, all right, now it's time to detach ourselves from worldly life. Family life is, although one may be Krishna conscious, and that makes it transcendental, but in general, family life is worldly life. So the Vedic literature prescribes that at a certain age, that is to say 50, one should detach oneself from family life. This is not sannyas. Sannyasa is absolute renunciation. The sannyasi can never see his wife again. It's complete separation. But in vanaprastha life, husband and wife may still serve together, but there's no sex, and the goal is different. In family life, we're building up, we're increasing the scope of our material affairs. And in vanaprastha life, we're winding down and closing up those affairs. Srila Prabhupada directed or wrote that back in the 1970s, that the young boys and girls who are now grahastas in the Hare Krishna movement in the future will be expected to accept the vanaprastha ashram and perhaps sannyas. So it's not some arcane system for outsiders. It's meant for the devotees. The idea is to turn our attention away from family affairs and more toward Krishna. If we just become detached from family affairs and don't become more attached to Krishna, what's the point? The idea is to become more absorbed in the activities of devotional service, direct activities of devotional service. But retirement from family affairs gives that opportunity. The traditional way of accepting the vanaprastha life was to go literally to the forest and live there in great austerity, but in the present age that's not possible. From my readings in Srila Prabhupada's books, although Prabhupada doesn't directly give these categories, I've seen that there are, in general, 3 ways of living in vanaprastha life. One is to go traveling to different places of pilgrimage. Jagannath Puri, Mayapur, Vrindavan, Tirupati, Varanasi. There are so many holy places all over India. Now also we have holy places in the West, Krishna conscious. So one may travel. Vidura, Mahatma Vidura did this after leaving Hastinapur. He was all entangled in politics and the contaminated affairs of the Kaurava palace. So he left, but he thought that I'm too contaminated now. I have to purify my heart. And therefore he went traveling to holy places. So this is one system of vanaprastha life. And another is to go live in a holy place. Mayapur, Vrindavan, Puri. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya retired to Jagannath Puri and was living there along with his wife. This living in one holy place is sometimes called kshetra sannyas, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that is the preferred form of vanaprastha life in Kali Yuga. And a third option is to come and go, which is what Srila Prabhupada did. He stayed with his family in Calcutta for some time, then he would, not Calcutta, he was in Calcutta, then he moved to UP, to Allahabad. Then he was sometimes going to Jhansi, which is in central India, in Madhya Pradesh, preaching there. So he was coming and going, go out, preach, come back for some time, go out and preach. So that's another system of vanaprastha life. And any of these one may do with or without one's wife. And so you get 6 systems by multiplication. One may go to a holy place and stay there with one's wife or without. One may travel with or without one's wife. One may come and go with or without the wife. In all cases, the idea is to detach ourselves from our routine of household comfort and family affairs, and to, what's the word? To give energy and enlightenment to our spiritual purpose in life. Panchashordham vanam brajet. Srila Prabhupada said that this is something one must do. Although he quoted, but people are reluctant to do. They want to go on earning money, they want to go on staying at home and engaging in various social functions, and they don't want to move onward. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the description of autumn, men who have that mindset are compared to cranes which stand in muddy water and just put up with the muddiness of it because they don't want to go through the trouble to do anything else. So we stay in family life because it's the path of least resistance. We just, we know where everything is. Our routine is predictable. Our comfort is there. We know where our slippers are. Everything is set. And we can just go on and not really notice that our time is slipping away and that our life is coming to an end and we're not really making much progress. So the Vanaprastha life is meant to revive our spirit of spiritual, what's the word, progress, spiritual, and it's an energetic spiritual life before the life is finished. Because after some time, we just become too old and then we can't do anything. There's no moving around, there's no taking on a new venture. There's just attending doctor's appointments and trying to find enough energy to get up in the morning and get through the day. Or worse, one is incapacitated, immobile, or not ambulatory, can't walk around, he's just really stuck. But at 50, it's expected that we still have some energy to us, and so we can embark on this project of active Vanaprastha life. It's an opportunity for greater association with devotees. During family life, I'm busy working, I'm busy taking care of children and so on. But in retired life, now my time is my own. So I can use that time to associate more with devotees, to hear and chant and engage in the activities of sadhana bhakti. And I can use the time also for rendering devotional service. So, and there's so many activities of devotional service one can perform. In particular, the retired people have a lifetime of experience, so they can draw upon that, their experience, their skills, and so on, to render service in practical affairs and in preaching Krishna consciousness. So this is all to be taken up. And maybe I won't talk a lot more about it. I'll see if you have some questions to indicate what you'd like me to talk about in this regard. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. We've read in Srila Prabhupada's books, he talks about 50 odd. At that time we should start thinking about Varnashrama. But we find that in the way life is at the moment, many people at that age still have to be earning a living, paying the bills and paying the mortgage. And so sometimes it's difficult for devotees at that stage to actually move away. They still have responsibilities for family.
They still have responsibilities. It's difficult to move away. Well, therefore, there's certain things we should do. First of all, we should plan. If I know that at 50 I'm going to be leaving home, then I shouldn't be having children at 40. It's just common sense. If I know that I have to move out, then I shouldn't be creating extra encumbrances that prevent me from moving out. So part of it's a plan. It would involve such things as having your children early. Get married early, have children early. You're 50, you're done with it. Not that we first start on the project when we're 40, 35 even. That's the first thing. Then also, not to take on heavy financial burdens, big mortgages and so on, the things that I can't pay for. It's a practical item of, one observation is many grihastas don't know how to manage their financial affairs in a sensible way. And therefore they find themselves needlessly overburdened. They're making money, but they have no money because they don't know how to manage their finances. And in particular, they fall prey to one very simple error. They spend more money than they have. And therefore they find themselves in debt, or they find themselves owing mortgage payments and so on, because they've spent money that they didn't really have available to spend. So if one wants to be freed from such things, then it makes sense to exercise fiscal discipline along the way so that I won't be burdened needlessly. For householders especially, I've recommended the seminars on financial planning for devotees, given by Vamsi Tari Gopal Das. They're online at YouTube. I think it's called Financial Planning for Devotees. Vamsi Tari Gopal. He's an expert, a trained person in financial planning, and he offers suggestions on just how to do it. Why should we be working and then after 30 years still be in debt and not have anything saved? So he gives practical, and often it's just because, we don't know anything about it. And we don't know how to manage household finances, a household financially. So he gives very practical directions, which I recommend to all grihastas and prospective grihastas. You've seen this? Yeah. Helpful, right? Certified. There's one more thing. And another thing is, if your stuff is holding you back, maybe you just want to sacrifice it. You know, you're paying for mortgage, it means your house owns you. Your house owns you. You may just want to say, this is not what I was born for, to be a slave to a house. The house is supposed to help me, not that it's supposed to be the instrument of my eternal slavery and indenture to the bank. You may just let it go. That's an option. I'm not saying one should, but maybe one should. But somehow or other, one has to get free. I may have so many responsibilities, I may have so many, but at a certain point, I'm going to die anyway, and then all my responsibilities are, that's it. Whoever was depending on me will have to depend on someone else because I'm not going to be there. So rather than wait until that inevitable point comes, better to retire voluntarily. Or I may not die, I may just become incapable. You know, I may still be alive, but not, as they say, alive and kicking. I may be alive and unable to work. I may be alive but not able to function very well. People have strokes and this disease and that disease, and they have to spend most of their time shuttling between hospital appointments. So there's no guarantee that just because I'm willing, I'll be able to see to all these responsibilities. But in any case, according to Vedic literature, after a certain point, now my responsibility is to move on. We all think, no, everything's still, I have my duties, so many things are depending on me. And we forget that if we leave, or when we leave, it will all go on without us. But we're thinking that, no, this is my duty, it's essential, I can't drop this. How will it go on? How will they go on? This is a kind of illusion. And for that reason also, one is recommended, no, just go, your time is there. We all think that we're indispensable. We see so many people who hang on to their posts till way late because nobody else could do it properly. And then we finally get kicked out, and it goes on. So better to put these things into a sensible order and voluntarily leave these things behind and pass them on. The Pandavas enthroned the next, enthroned their grandson and left. They didn't wait till death overtook them, and everybody said, well, now what are we going to do? Is that okay? Something else?
Yes, Maharaj. I was wondering, especially for those vanaprasthas who leave their family, they move into a temple.
They do which one?
For vanaprasthas who leave their family.
I think if you point the microphone more toward you.
Okay, yes, sorry. Who leave their family, who move into the temple. Most of them, of course, all of them are getting older. What type of services should, because there's so much to do in a temple. I look in a temple like Radhadesh, there's 1 million services to be done. But I'm sure they're not supposed to be running around, managing all types of things and doing the same thing as they were doing before, but then...
They may do some of the same things they did before. What services should vanaprasthas be doing? Well, let's look at Prabhupada as a sannyasi. He was running around getting books published. He was going to the printer. He was doing so many things. Not that he said, well, I've retired, so I should just be doing japa and taking darshan. He was doing so many practical things. So the vanaprasthas may do that. They may help with the temple accounts. They may help in so many real practical things. That's possible. Certainly they should devote time for direct hearing and chanting and such activities as that. But there's so much to do. And it's not just that this is only for the brahmacharis, but the vanaprasthas can take on so much. Both preaching vanaprasthas can do, certainly. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, I was wondering because in ISKCON, if you want to take sannyas, then you need to have the permission of your wife.
Yeah.
The wives have to agree.
Yeah.
Is that similar with vanaprastha?
Fortunately, anyone interested if you're interested in vanaprastha life and you're eligible by age for vanaprastha life or inclination for vanaprastha life, this is your opportunity because the GBC hasn't yet turned their attention to it. So before you have to fill out applications in triplicate and get them approved by a council of 150 devotees who know you well, and so on, before there's a ministry for vanaprastha services and a whole batch of rigmarole and red tape. Now is the time to get there early.
Thank you, Maharaj.
At the beginning, Maharaj, you mentioned, well, I got the impression in your studies.
Well, I'm thinking that it might be wise of our administrators to treat the Vanaprastha ashram as something more personal than institutional. So far, the governing body commission hasn't decided that they're going to do things like set up boards to decide whether you can get married and decide whether person A can marry person B. They recognize that these are one's own personal affairs and not the affairs of the central government authority. They might wish to take a similar attitude toward retirement from family life. Yes.
You mentioned at the beginning that in your research, it sounded like that the Vanaprastha ashram has, even in the Shastra, there's not much information about it. So is that the reason that ISKCON has got such a the invisible ashram? I'm not sure his nickname.
I think that's the reason, not because there's not much information. There is actually, once you start looking, quite a fair amount of information in Srila Prabhupada's books. It's certainly the information that we should do it is there in Prabhupada's books, that one must, in fact, retire from family life. One doesn't have to look very far to find that, and yet people don't do it. So I don't think it's because no one said anything in Shastra, but there are other obstructions, such as thinking, well, I have so many other duties that I can't do this, or thinking that, I don't want to, and then rationalizing that because I don't want to, I don't have to. I have a happy family life with my wife's a devotee, my kids are devotees, Everyone's a devotee, so I can just stay in family life forever. There's, what's the word? Inertia. This is what we've always done, so this is what we'll always do. There's insecurity, what will happen to me if I give up working and so on. There's, a whole list of obstructions, which I'm just going through actually for publishing. This book is being published in installments on my website, jswami.info. There's about 25 or so installments already there, and you can take advantage of going through them and sign up also for coming installments. Inertia is there, attachment is there, illusion is there, bad advice from other grahastas is there. Not really knowing how to do it, that's certainly a contribution. I'm ready to become a vanaprastha, but what do I do? What's a vanaprastha? How do I? So therefore, I'm writing the book, or I've written the book to give some directions about that so that people can see vanaprastha life in action. The book has two sides. One is teachings and theory, and the other half is interviews with various vanaprasthas in ISKCON, people who've taken up vanaprastha life. There are vanaprasthas. But generally what we see is, what's the word? Generally what we see is householders overstaying their visa. They've been given a license for 25 years of householder life, and now it's going on 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and they're still thinking they have a license which has expired. So these things, more than lack of direction from Shastra. How much, there's not tons and tons of information in Shastra about how to carry out family life. And there's something, but not, we don't find a whole chapter, well we do, but not a whole lot dedicated to how to manage your family affairs. You're supposed to figure that out. But it's there in outline, this is family life, live like this. And so the same thing, vanaprastha life. Information's there. But yes, it does need some adjustment. Most of the information about specifics tends to deal with how you're going to eat, and a lot of that is picking up grains from the grain dealer shops and collecting grains from the field. You may not, particularly if you're in New York City, you're probably not going to do a lot of picking up grains from the field, especially in December. So it does need some adjustment, it does need some thought, and but we have to get on with it. And if we don't, we'll see that we won't know how to be vanaprasthas, and we won't know how to die. We'll die attached to our family members, and we'll die without doing so much service that we could have done for spreading Krishna consciousness and cultivating Krishna consciousness. So, all right, there may not be so much information, but let's get on with it. Yes, Shamra.
Thank you, Maharaj. There's also some place where different varnas are like 2 out of 4 varnas.
Yeah, that the Brahmins can go through all 4 ashrams and so on. That quotation is there. That for the Brahmanas, there's 4 ashrams. For the Kshatriyas, 3. For the Vaishyas, 2. And for the Shudras, only 1 family life. But we see that Prabhupada, for example, although he appeared in a Vaishya family, accepted Vanaprastha life. He didn't go looking for that quote, yes. He embraced the Vanaprastha ashram and said that we should also accept it. It will be interesting to see what quotes attached householders come up with to avoid accepting the Vanaprastha ashram. You can be sure there'll be a lot of talk about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. People will want to make Bhaktivinoda Thakur the patron saint of family attachment. But we're not Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
What age did he actually go? Because he went into retirement.
Yeah, he went into retirement, although he was living at home. He was living like a Babaji. He gave up external affairs, really, and was living like a Babaji in his later years.
I think he was always quite detached anyway.
100%, that's for sure. But then it manifested in external form in his later years. And anyway, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written in his Bhakti Lok that one shouldn't take exceptions to prove the unexceptional, to prove, to prove something which is apart from the standard. And he gives the example, let's see, well, there are many examples. Garuda's a non-vegetarian. Garuda is a non-vegetarian. So if I want to eat non-vegetarian food, I could say, well, Garuda, he's the greatest Vaishnava, and he's not a vegetarian. So we shouldn't use the exceptions to get out of doing what we should do. Mm-hmm.
I read in Srila Prabhupada's books before about that the husband could take Varnashrama, the wife could stay at home, be looked after by the children, and that was quite acceptable.
Yes, very much so. It's not that the wife must go to the forest or go with the husband. That's very respectable to stay at home under the care of the grown sons. And then she becomes like the spiritual guide for the family, because she's doing bhajan, she's engaged in Krishna business, chanting Hare Krishna, worshipping the deity, and so on. And she can set the spiritual example for the whole family.
I was wondering if the 4 stages, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas, are fundamental to attain the 4 stages of the ashram. Are they fundamental to attain the love, prema
I
bhakti?
couldn't hear anything after that.
The 4 stages
Yeah,
of
I got
ashram.
that 3 times, but after that, it all dropped off the cliff.
Okay. Are they, how do you say, indispensable to attain
indispensable?
prema?
No,
Bhakti.
nothing's indispensable for attaining prema. Krishna can give Krishna prema just like that. But there's a standard program of activities to help us develop Krishna consciousness up to the stage of Krishna prema. So these things are recommended. It's not dependent on it. Krishna prema can appear as and when it likes. But anukuliyena Krishna, these things are favorable. And mandatory.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Actually, I read your book online that you're writing, and I really, really liked it.
Okay.
I'm going to be 50 soon, and I was so grateful because your book sounds like a nice invitation to spend more time with Krishna.
Yeah. It's sometimes taken as something terribly scary and something to avoid, but actually it's like a wonderful opportunity that now we're done with our, it's always, Maharaj, we have no time for reading, we have no time for chanting, we have no time for this, we have no time for that. Now you get all the time for spiritual life, so it's wonderful. You can take your life back, as they say.
Get your life back.
Thank you. And let's get an idea of what's going on with the temple schedule also, so I know what's happening. What's happening?
Arti just now.
Arti is about to happen. Okay, so we should stop now. All right. And then there's Gaur Arti and Damodarashtakams, that's what happens.
Just Gaur Arti.
Just Gaur Arti. And Damodarashtakams in the morning. Okay.
Also in the evening. It's at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock in the evening.
In the evening also? Okay, but at 9. 8:15?
50.
50. 8:50. Okay. Well, here comes the conch. When the conch blows, it's over. That's like Vanaprastha life. The conch blows and family life is over. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.